Yeah, that looks pretty good. See if somebody hops on here. Of course, if you're watching this after the fact, it's not really going to matter whether people are on here yet or not. But, let's see. As people get on, we'll do more talking. Point all over here a little bit. So today's live is about the whole ankle accident and talking about the sword that's right here. But as people get on, we'll talk more about what's going on in the video and everything like that, and we'll see what's up. Yeah, it's been a while, man. It's been a while. I've been doing things in the background, but it hasn't been stuff that I can release. So yeah, and I'll get more into what's been going on and everything like that, what we've been working on, and why we haven't released a video and all of that stuff throughout this. And well, at least looks like some people did log in or hop on or join. But yeah, I'm gonna be talking about the samurai challenge. I'm actually gonna be showing y'all where I'm at right now with it, and it's definitely not what I had planned to make, because I had watched, not really watched, but we have a channel, a Discord channel with all of the YouTube Knife Maker Challenge people, and I, for some odd reason, wasn't a part of it for a little bit. I guess the app got messed up, and so I didn't get to see what they were making for like a month, and I was planning on doing a few different things, and then I saw what they were making, and a lot of them were making swords, and I was like, man, I really want to make a sword now, and I just think that y'all would have more fun seeing my version of a sword. So I ended up making a sword, and I'm a little behind, but it's okay. It's going to end up making it for the challenge and all that stuff. The video is going to come out. Everything's going to be fine. I've been focused on it hardcore, which is one of the reasons why I haven't done much on the channel. Plus, of course, I did take my ankle out with a hatchet. So this that hatchet right there, hey, blood spot. Yeah, I was cutting through brush, and it slipped out of my hand, hit the ground, bounced back, and dug straight into my ankle. I'm doing okay now, but I had stitches taken out on Friday. What's up, Klaus? I had stitches taken out on Friday, and it hadn't healed together, so they put a whole new run of stitches back in it. So now I've got to get the second round of stitches taken out next Friday. So we'll have that, but at least right now I'm able to be mobile, move around, do my thing. One of the things that I've been working on in the background while we've been doing this is this guy right here. So what's up? So this right here it's gonna be pretty cool. I really like it. Now, one of the cool things about my particular challenge build, for one, it's not gonna be this long. It's gonna be about another 6-7 inches longer than this. The handle overall length will be about 14 inches. But so everything that's going into this build will be stuff that I had in the shop. I didn't order a single thing for this particular build. And I'm doing it, of course, slightly unconventional because it's a river experience thing. You know, we always do something that's slightly different. Whenever we had the buoy challenge, I made the whole Quran buoy thing where it was like the Quran bit and a buoy all tied together. Well, that guy right there. So again, if you just hopped on, that's the hatchet that I sharpened and cut myself. Now, the crazy thing about that thing is that's just a little like Harbor Freight hatchet right there. Now, when it comes to that thing, I had sharpened it like maybe a couple of minutes before actually going out there and breaking stuff down. And I typically don't do it the way that I was doing it, but I was just going through and it was sharp enough that it was just slicing through 1-inch branches and limbs and things like that. But what ended up happening was whenever I was swinging down with it, just to give you all an actual visualization, you wouldn't think this would be able to do it because it actually has this swell that right here. But I came through, hit a little knot, and it came out of my hand. And what it ended up doing was it swung down and hit the end here, just like if you've ever seen somebody at like a axe throwing place or a hatchet throwing place, and they throw the hatchet, and if it hits the head, it just kind of hits the head and drops. If it hits the handle, it bounces back towards the people. So whenever they throw it and it hits like this, it goes boing, and it just springs itself back towards them. That's what ended up happening. So I flung it down, it came out of my hand, spun, hit the handle, and just straight down into my ankle. And there's some of the blood from it right there. But yeah, this is just a little cheap, nothing fancy hatchet, but I sharpened it razor sharp, which I probably shouldn't have. And yeah, come down, hit, bounced, dug that whole entire thing into my ankle, and ended up getting a lot of stitches. It went through all the layers of everything, and bled a lot. Ended up passing out in the car on the way to the ER, and it was sketchy. But that guy right there is what messed me up, and it's one of those things where you just got to be careful whenever you're doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? It took me out of doing anything for a while, but in the process of this, it was kind of funny. So in the process of that, I was like, you know what? I've been working on, did it go into bone? No, luckily it didn't. So where it ended up hitting, just lower y'all down here for a second. So I'll show you on my other ankle here. So where it ended up hitting was, if I can even let y'all see this, my other ankle's wrapped up. So it went in between the ankle and your like tendon that's back here. I don't know if it's Achilles tendon or whatever. It went straight in between that. And it's still all wrapped up right now. It went straight through here. So if it would have went basically like half an inch, 3/4 of an inch, either way, it would have went through the tendon that goes on the outside of your ankle or the tendon that runs down past your heel. But I lucked out and it went straight in between those, and it was crazy. At first I was like, I want y'all to imagine this, okay? Imagine you cut your ankle, and because I'm a guy, because I'm a dude, you don't think of things, you know how guys work. If we take a if we take a bite of a hot piece of pizza and it's too hot, the craziest thing that we do is we take like another bite or something like that, or we just keep eating it. We don't spit it out. And I had one of those moments whenever I cut the ankle. So I cut the ankle. I was like, maybe it didn't do anything because I didn't really feel it. I felt something hit. So it came down, hit me, and I've had my hatchets when they're dull bump into me, and it will like bruise you or break the skin a little bit. So I was thinking, it should be fine. And then I looked down, and it is absolutely filling my shoe that I'm wearing right now, with blood. So the blood, this is where it's pouring out. It's all red inside there. I'm wearing these until I'm done healing, but it filled the whole entire shoe like a boat with blood. And I was like, yeah, that's not good. But whenever it cut through super clean. It was like somebody took a scalpel and just went ship and sliced through all the layers. It was super straight, super clean cut. They were able to stitch it real well. They had me tell them like 3 times what actually happened, because they're like, no, you don't get cuts like this from like stuff like that. So that was, a little bit of a pride moment. But what ended up happening was I cut it, looked down, saw that I was bleeding. I had been doing yard work the entire morning. Okay, yard work, mowing, weed eating, all that stuff. So my gates were all open. What the hell did I do? I hop on one damn foot all the way across my yard, shut one gate. All the way across the other yard, shut the other gate. And then, after doing all that hopping, getting my blood pumping hardcore, just draining out my damn ankle, I then go inside and run water on it, make sure it's clean as much as possible because my ankles are covered in dirt and grass and all that stuff from mowing and edging and weeding and all that. And then I finally call my wife and I say, hey, can you please call somebody because I need to go to the ER? So she called my father-in-law. He came, picked me up and took me. But definitely, if you cut yourself, don't hop across your whole damn backyard shutting stuff. Just lay down, raise your damn foot up, and call somebody. If you can put pressure on it, put pressure on it. But don't do what I did and hop everywhere because before I got to the ER, I passed out. It was, yeah, that was sketchy. That was not fun. I don't know if y'all have ever bled enough to where you pass out, but my eyes, I couldn't see any color or anything. Everything went white. It was weird. But so that happens, and I'm at home, and I finally start messing with my phone because I replaced my phone, and I started trying to re-download apps, and I saw that I hadn't downloaded Discord, so I downloaded Discord again, and it pops up, and it's got everybody's samurai builds that they're working on, and there are a bunch of cool swords, and I'm thinking, none of these guys are making swords like how I would make one for this challenge, so I decided that I was going to make a sword. Long story to that. So what I decided to make was with stuff that I had in the shop. So 5160, this was the end of one of my Willys Jeep leaf springs. So it had the loop around it to where you had the bolts and the bushings and all that stuff. So I forged it flat, and it was only about maybe this long, about this long. So I had to forge everything down, forge it all out. This is the profile that we forged. We took almost nothing off with the 2x72. So in the video, you're going to see the whole entire forging process to actually get to this full profile out of that leaf spring. So nothing here wasn't profiled on the 2x72. It was all hammer and anvil. Of course, it is super straight. And then I ended up forging a texture into the flats, which y'all have seen me do before, and that's what gives us this badass transition line between the bevels and this. Now, this is not exactly how it's going to look. If you think about how the Darth Maul dagger looked, where the bevels were like a satin finish, but they were actually sanded, I am going to hand sand the bevels here, and there's going to be that nice transition between the satin, smooth, crisp bevels and then that nice texture that's right there, and it's going to pop like a son of a gun. And then, of course, I did my, if you want to call it a Suba Habaki, whatever cut thing. There we go. Now we're back. So I did this whole situation right here a little bit different than what a lot of people do it because I wanted it to be sleek and minimalized. So I changed up the process that a lot of people do these things, and I'll tell you all about that here in just a second here. But let's see here. Hey, what's new? What's your view on forging 15 and 20 and 80 CRV2? Okay, I'll go ahead and answer that here in just a second. I know that somebody asked a question, and I figured I would go ahead and check and see what it was before we get too crazier. For one, 15 and 20 and 80 CRV2, love forging both of them. You use 15 and 20 and 80 CRV2 in Damascus, so you can forge them as much as you want. They forge really, really well together. Same, just like 1080, 1084, and 15 and 20 makes really good Damascus. 80 CRV2 and that makes really good Damascus as well. And a lot of people use the ADCRV2 is cores on Damascus cladded blades. So really good there. So with this, I did this a little bit different. So this piece, of course, I still got a lot of work to do to it. This was a piece of angle iron. So I don't know exactly which piece I chopped it off of, but it was a piece kind of like this right here. Is this the one? No, it's not the one I chopped it off of. It's over there. So basically I took this, a piece like this, and you'll see it in the video, but I cut a line into it and then bent it around this. So that gives me my little Suba, Habaki, whatever thing, all in one. And it fits up super tight all the way around there. So I did it a little bit different, did that, wrapped it around, ended up doing a pin. It's not actually this big on either side. That's still mushroomed out from me pinning it into place. But I did run a bead of weld on the back side and just made sure that everything was good. That'll all get filed down. Everything will be nice and clean. But something a little bit different. I wanted it to be super sleek because the handle is going to be nice and slim. The handle's going to be really cool. So we did this 5160. This is angle iron. That is a mild steel pin. So we were able to do that. All of this stuff that I'm going to do in the video, this is all stuff that you can easily do without having to like solder the whatever it is, that little piece that's right here. We'll have terms and all that crap whenever we end up doing the video, but I don't remember whether it's the Habaki or the Suba. Anyways, this piece that's right here, typically people use copper. They bring it around there and they solder the bottom. That has been the bane of a lot of the other YouTubers' existence in this particular challenge. And I was like, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to Rivers experience the shit out of this. So that's what I did. And you will easily be able to replicate what I'm doing in this particular build, which is what I wanted to do instead of trying to make people think, you know, I have to do all the stuff with a katana. I wanted to do my cool stuff, all my textures that I love to do, everything like that, because that again is my style and one of the things that I know that y'all like. Because a lot of people don't really do that. That's my thing. I love it. So we got that. Now when it comes to the handle material, it's gonna be pretty cool. Handle material is the end of a wheelbarrow handle. Of course, we're gonna end up chopping off the amount that we need. This is awesome wood. It is insanely hard. That's it on the concrete. Insanely hard wood. And what I'm going to end up doing is a cool little process on this, and I think y'all are going to like it. It's going to have a texture on it as well, and I think that y'all are going to like the way that looks. If you've ever watched the video that I did on the Darth Maul dagger, how I filed in the little crosshatch marks on the handle, think about that, but on a very large scale. That's what's going to end up happening with this, because I'm not doing the Ito wrap. I'm going to do my own thing, and it's going to look really cool, but it's going to be a different version of it. It's going to be my thing, which is, again, one of the things that I love to do on these builds. But this right here is going to be what's going to make the handle. Plus, if you've looked at some of the samurai swords and all that, they've got like a little front cap and back cap. I'm going to have this really cool bone on here. That is going to be on either end of that wheelbarrow. That's going to cap them off, and I think that's going to be really cool. But it's going to be something that is just a lot different than what you'll typically see in this challenge. That's my thing. Now, of course, y'all are going to love the challenge. There are people that have made all kinds of different stuff. Yeah, this is going to be one of the best challenges that y'all have seen and y'all got to watch the videos on. I had a juicer blow up on me and cut my hand open. That does not sound fun at all. The craziest thing I've done with my hand was, well, I've done a lot of crazy things with my hand, but I did run it through a table saw. I used to be a construction guy, so I've ran nails through my fingers and stuff like that, framing nails that hit a knot and shoot out the side, stuff like that. None of that stuff's fun. Anything that happens to your hands is not fun. I almost lost my hands whenever I was a baby. I got them on a space heater and like melted all of this stuff. So thankfully my mom was able to get me to the ER and they handled all that business. What a place is Suba, the other way around. Okay, so that's a good question. That's a good statement. But if you look at the way that samurai swords work, like katanas, not really just samurai swords, but katanas, they have the spacer and then the guard. And then they'll have another little thing here and then the handle and all that. But you have this spacer between the edge and the guard. And that is something that I wanted to stick with the whole entire, build process on this was actually doing some of the stuff in the position that it's supposed to be in. So that's the reason why I went this route, and I wanted to have that space in between the guard here and the actual, cutting edge and all that stuff, because the cutting edge comes all the way back. But of course the handle is going to be about that long, so it's going to be a cool handle, long handle. There's going to be a lot of design in the handle, but I think this is going to be really cool. I should be able to get a lot of this knocked out over the next day or so, and I think it's going to be really cool. What's up, David? Y'all go check out his channel, David Moon Forge. Y'all, if y'all like what I do, y'all like what he does on his channel too. Can't wait to see the results. Forge a new blade out of that wood. I've thought about doing one of the wood swords and different things like that, or do the reverse builds where you have like steel handle scales and then the wood as the cutting edge and all that stuff. I've thought about doing that, and I might end up doing one out of I've got some really nice carbon fiber, and it's a long piece of it. I thought about making a carbon fiber wakizashi or a tanto, where the blade and all that stuff's all carbon fiber, but the handle material is slightly different. So I thought about doing that. That would be actually pretty cool. And but yes, so in the process, and I want you to think about this. So whenever you're watching the video of me forging that actual sword, I'm only doing that on one foot. So one foot is completely screwed up and I can't put any pressure on it, because at this point, I started forging this 2 days after screwing up my ankle. So I'm in here and I have to go from point A to point B with pretty much a cane, because I can't put any weight on my right leg, which is my dominant leg. And so whenever I'm forging and I'm doing all that stuff, I am on one leg, no pressure on my right leg, and I'm forging that, moving all that steel, doing all that stuff. One leg's in pain, all that crap, got stitches in it and everything. And I started forging this sword and making this thing after I ended up hurting myself. So whenever you see the whole edited video and all that stuff, you're not going to be able to tell that I'm injured in it, because there's no fun in that. But yes, I did all of this stuff with the screwed up hatchet, taken out ankle, and I was able to do this. But again, I wanted to do something that was different. I think that I was able to accomplish that. I've still got a lot of cleanup on this area here, and I'm going to go ahead and finish out the blade, finish hand sanding it, and getting all the stuff done to this and the whole guard section right here. And then all that stuff's getting taped off, and we're going to go ahead and start working on the handle. Like I said, I've got to extend it about 6 inches, so I'm going to end up cutting down into this, taking out a notch, and that way whenever I weld the extension on the tang, it's going to have a nice weld that comes down, comes around, and wraps around, and it'll be nice and sturdy. And of course we'll clean it all up, make everything nice and even and straight. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be something that's awesome, and I cannot wait to end up using this. I think it is going to be a blast to slice through things. I'm going to do the whole Fruit Ninja thing. I haven't decided whether I'm going to get an outfit or not. Whenever y'all see some of the guys build videos for this challenge, some of the theatrical stuff that they did was absolutely awesome. The blade looks great. They messed up the ankle. Yes, I think the ankle actually did unlock the thing from me doing this. Because me just sitting there thinking and not being able to really do anything just got me going, you know what, screw this, I'm making a damn sword. Members flip the Suba 90 degrees, not 180. Okay, so yeah, you were talking about taking this going down so that it came up and down here. And I could see that being a thing, but whenever you actually see the whole entire sword together, I think it'll make more sense the way that I have it right now. I didn't want anything to interrupt the blade profile this way. Coming here and coming here, all the way down. I wanted everything to be nice, thin, and sleek going up to the tip, and then it's also going to taper down pretty thin to here. So imagine if it was a really big, what's the term for that little knife? Like a Quenching. If you've ever seen a Quenching, think about a Quenching that is 3 feet long, because the handle does kick up and out that way. So it's got a full arc to it all the way from tip to the end of the tang. And I wanted this profile to be nice and sleek all the way out to the tip. And then it still have a guard whenever you looked at it this way, but not when you look at it this way. Because I want everything to be as sleek as possible, but it still catches your hand right here. So you're still caught. You can't go up any more than that, and you're fine. But I wanted it to be as low profile as possible instead of being super large like you typically see that. So it's there, but when you're looking at it like this, it disappears. And when it's going to here, it's visible again. And it does its job, but it's not messing with your eye and the profile of it. So that was the whole point behind me making it the profile that it is right now. Is it there? Yes. Does it do its thing? Yes. But does it mess with the flow of the blade? Nope. That was the goal. But I mean, it would probably look good either way. I just, the way that my eye works and everything like that, I wanted it to be a specific way so that it did its job, but it didn't mess with the flow of the profile of the blade. And I've drawn a bunch of these on here. So lately I've been sketching my my blades on my workbench. I'll show y'all this. So lately I've been going through and all of my blades that I've been working on, I've been putting them on here. I'm going to end up covering pretty much the whole entire workbench with blade profiles as we go along, and then I'm going to end up sealing the workbench with all the blade profiles on here. But of course, we have this one right here, which is this guy, which again, now that I'm finally where I'm at, all I've got to do now is just shoot the slicing video with this where I'm actually cutting things. That's all I've got to do that, and then that video, my goal is to have it out Tuesday, so that's all I need to do at that point. I've been so focused on this build right here, which of course is this build right here, that I've needed to put this one on the back burner for just a minute because I've only got till the 12th to finish the Samurai Challenge. So whenever we get it done, then I'll go ahead and focus more on a few of the other builds. I've also got something that y'all haven't really seen yet. I'm doing a collaboration with a friend on Instagram, and let's see if I can grab this billet. So I don't know if I showed y'all this or not, but I've got a huge chunk of ladder pattern Damascus that I'm going to be forging into an integral chef's knife. That is going to be a lot of steel moving. But that right there is going to be fun. What did my wife say here? This is the part of the beauty of the challenge builds, different interpretations. Yes. Yeah. Oh, so when it comes to the challenge builds and talking about different interpretations of the concept and all that, we're trying to pick the next challenge. I'm gonna tell you what ones I've decided, but what was your tempering plan on the blade? I tempered that blade in my home oven. So, and I did a little bit of a different temper than what I would typically do. So in order to get the hardness that I wanted, I tempered it at it was 275 degrees for 2 hours. So it wasn't 400 degrees, 275 for 2 hours, and I was able to get it to catch a 60 file barely, but a 55 doesn't phase it. So it should be right at about that like 58, 59 hardness on it, which is perfect for a sword. It has just enough strength, but just enough flexibility, I guess you could say that. The durability should be absolutely awesome for a sword. You don't want a sword to be too hard. A sword doesn't need to be as hard as like a chef's knife. It doesn't need to be in that 62 to 65 hardness. You need it to be right in that like high 50s. So that was 275 for 2 hours, and whenever I pulled it, of course, out of the heat treat, it was skating a 65 file. So you do that, do your math, do all the stuff, do your research, and you'll be able to know exactly what temperature you need to bring it down to, or use to bring the hardness down. No, so I'm doing a collaboration, David, with another person who makes Damascus and all that stuff. He's actually, I'm going to be using some of the plans that he has on. He's got a press that he built and a power hammer that he built, and I'm going to end up making probably one of my own versions of those two. We've been talking back and forth for a while now. We were on the phone for about an hour a couple days ago, and I was just picking his brains on stuff, but he ended up forging that billet for me, and then I'm going to take and forge it down into an integral and do all that stuff. So it's gonna be pretty cool. I do that every once in a while where I'll do a collaboration with another channel or something like that. And what I love doing is collaborations with channels that are smaller than mine versus channels that are larger than mine. Because if I can end up helping a smaller channel grow, that's one of my favorite things. Having people, especially like your channel, I love sending people to your channel, David, because you do a lot of different stuff and you're doing absolutely awesome. And I really like the fact that you're doing a lot of the shorts and everything right now too. I need to branch out and do more of the shorts and post more on Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. I just haven't decided how I'm going to take and format everything to be able to do that. I need to do it. I've got like 530 videos worth of content to make stuff out of. I just haven't taken and narrowed them all down to be able to do that, or decided how I want to do it. What is the right heat treatment for a chopper made out of leaf spring 5160? So I'll tell you right now, if that 5160 was a leaf spring and not virgin 5160, you need to anneal it right out the gate. If you're using, you have a lot of people that use the railroad clips. You have a lot of people that use different steel that they've got out of just random stuff. The first thing you need to do, let's say you take that 5160 and it's got the bow in it and you forge it flat. Before you do anything else to that, you can forge it flat, put it in your forge, bring it up to over 1600 degrees, and then let it cool. Do that annealing step because you want to turn it back to just steel and not a leaf spring. Because what will end up happening if you don't do that step, there's a chance that as it cools each time you mess with it, it could slightly start bowing back into that leaf spring profile. So you'll start messing with yourself and you'll have to play with things in order to keep it straight as you're doing your process. And it'll take that bow, have a better chance to take that bow whenever you quench it. It'll want to pull back into a spring. So you absolutely want to do that annealing step. Once you turn it from a leaf spring into just flat steel, anneal it, let it cool, and then put it back in the forge, start forging it. And it'll be a lot better. But you want to just turn it back into just 5160. Take the leaf spring life out of it. And when it comes to the heat treat process, heat treating 5160 is probably the easiest steel you'll ever heat treat. The process changes a little bit whenever you're trying to get a real nice grain structure. But if you are, let's say you're making your first blade or even your fifth blade and you want to heat treat 5160, the threshold for what heat you can quench at is pretty crazy. See you later, Rolly. And yes, definitely message me later. So if you're going to go ahead and heat treat that, really you can heat treat, so you can bring 5160 up to like 1480, 1475, all the way up to like 1525, and quench it in 120 degree peanut oil. And people have quenched it in AAA, people have quenched it in parts 50. I've seen people quench it in diesel. So you can do a lot of different things. There's a guy that I know that he quenches everything in diesel fuel. Hey, that's his secret sauce. And he does every single one of them in that. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but 5160 is very forgiving in its actual heat treat process. One of the things that you want to do is just do your grain refinement cycles so that you can actually go through and make sure you quench it and you have a nice smooth grain structure. Me, on most of my 5160, I do an annealing step after I get done flattening it, and then I forge the whole entire thing, and then I do an annealing step again, because once I've forged it fully to profile, I'm not going to go straight into heat treating. So I will anneal it one more time, and then I'll set it aside, and then when it comes time to heat treat it, I will bring it back up 1600 degrees, let it cool outside the forge. That is going to be your first process. So bring it up 1600, let it cool outside the forge, and then you can do a 1375 or like 1400 degree if you only want to do 2 cycles of this for like your thermal cycling. So bring it up to that, let it cool outside the forge, but you can technically go 1600, 1550, 1500, 1450, 1400, 1350. You've got some people that'll do 1200 and do that, and then again let it cool, and then bring it up to, I do 1525, bring it up to 1525, quench it in 120 degree peanut oil, and I typically get 65 HRC to about just over that whenever I get done quenching it. Now that's with my specific leaf springs that I own in the shop, and my specific 5160 like this right here. This is very pure 5160. This was made for a machine shop that was never actually used in the machine, so it doesn't have any abuse done to it, and it's a very pure. They actually tested this for the place that I got this from. And but for those right there, you could typically get around that 65 HRC. But even like David Moon has said before, there are some of those leaf spring materials where once you quench it, it might only be 61 or 62 HRC after the heat treat process. You need to think through that, because if you don't, and you go and you temper something that was 61 or 62 HRC at 400 degrees for 2 hours times 2, you're going to end up taking that steel and making it super soft. So you're going to bring it all the way down to probably like 52 HRC, which is too soft for a blade. Will it hold an edge semi okay? Yes, it'll hold an edge better than wood, but it's not going to be anything that is like super worth it for a good knife. So I've mentioned this in a lot of different videos. You just need to make sure that you know the recipe for, if you have 5160, that's 62 HRC after the quench, what temperature you need to put it in the oven for how long, so that you actually get something that's in that plus 50 HRC after it's said and done, and you'll be fine. So one of the things that I did was I researched what leaf spring material I had on from what vehicles, what manufacturer did, what people have been able to achieve with those particular leaf springs, and then of course I've made like 65 knives out of particular leaf spring materials that I have, that I've been able to test the hardnesses and be able to do all that stuff. So I've done all the math. I've done all the work to make sure that I know exactly what tempering I need to do to get to the result that I need. So you've seen me go ahead and, like the big bolo knife with the D-guard, I got the hardness that I wanted after the quench, so I went ahead and blew back the spine and called it good. On stuff like that, if you want to do a tempering process without absolutely making it too soft, you can do low temperature tempering processes to get the durability out of it without dropping your hardness a lot. So you can do something like 200 degrees or 225 or 250 degrees for 2 hours, and you'll be fine. That way you can actually get that process in there without decreasing the hardness that much. So think about stuff like that. Look it up, do your research, and do your math. Making videos and making knives are 2 full-time jobs. Yes, doing this whole entire process is absolutely ridiculous. If I was to just make a knife and not film it, it would be way faster. Way faster. It would be ridiculous. But I do love the process of doing this because, again, the thing with a lot of the people that are going to be watching the YouTube Knife Makers Challenges is you're going to be seeing a lot of things that are kind of like daunting to try and make. And for me, I love making stuff that people can replicate, you know. I don't tend to make a bunch of things that a person's been doing this for, 6 months, 7 months, couldn't make. You could easily make what I did here if you just take the time and try it out. It doesn't really, you don't need power hammers and presses. Would a power hammer or press make my life a lot easier? Yes, but for me, I got power hammer and press built into my shoulder. And y'all seen me forge ridiculous crap with my hands, so I can do it. But you can do everything that what I do in this shop with very simple tools. Yeah, I have a 2x72, but you can do a 1x30 and do that. You can use files if you have enough time. It's not that big a deal. I do not have a fancy drill press. I've got a Harbor Freight bandsaw. I've got, a couple of anvils, but one of my anvils is only like a $300 anvil. It's not like a super expensive anvil. And then I made my forge, and I've showed y'all how I did that. So to be fair, y'all can do everything that I'm doing in the shop. All you got to do is just try it out, put the effort in. It's not that big a deal. You don't have to have some crazy lathe machine to do all the stuff that I do. You don't have to have fancy equipment or any of that. This is all stuff that can be acquired, and you could easily replicate what I'm doing. Just follow along and watch what I'm doing. So what about magnetic and non-magnetic states of the blade? So here's the hard part about trying to use a magnet to judge when you should be quenching. A lot of steels, you're going to go past non-magnetic, and then some is what people say whenever you're quenching. So let's say you're doing 1080, 1084, and you're testing it with the magnet, and then you're putting it back in the forge and bringing it up slightly more than that. If you haven't done that process several times, you don't know what the temperature looks like. So you don't know how yellow, orange, or anything red, dull, you don't know what that technically is. So your forge could be pumping 1800 degrees, or it could be 2200 degrees. So you don't know. That 400-degree difference is huge for time, for how much longer it's going to be in the forge. It can need to be in the forge for 30 seconds. It can need to be in the forge for 2 minutes. You don't know exactly what that is unless you're actually paying attention to the temperature of your forge. So if you're trying to do non-magnetic and then 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes, you're not technically going to do anything super scientific with that. And if you're trying to just accomplish a hardened blade, you can just go, okay, we're at non-magnetic. You have to check it a lot. So, okay, we're still magnetic. Okay, we're still magnetic. Okay, we're just got to non-magnetic. Go back in. Well, at that point forward, once it's non-magnetic, the amount that it has to cool to get magnetic again is ridiculous. So once you are non-magnetic, you're non-magnetic. Doesn't matter how many times you sit there and try and touch that. It's got to cool a ton in order to become magnetic again. So you do non-magnetic, and then you're thinking, okay, I think I should be fine. Quench it in oil. That's not the best way to do it. If I were you, what I would do is I would pay attention, whether you got to turn all the lights off in your shop or whatever it is, go non-magnetic, in there for 30 seconds. Pull it out, quench it, snap it. Maybe file test it. And then I would go non-magnetic, in, a minute, quench it, snap it. Okay? File test it, everything good. All right? Non-magnetic, back in, minute and a half. Do it until I figured out exactly how long I needed it in the forge for it to be what I want, with the amount of smoothness of the grain structure, with the amount of hardness that I'm getting after the quench. If you're not willing to do those snap tests, then you're never going to know exactly what you're going to achieve after you do it based on magnetic or non-magnetic. That's the hard part. You got to be able to test it and do that stuff if you're going to try and use that particular method, because there's no real science that anybody can tell you in a book based on what your forge is doing to the steel. Because your forge, again, might be 1900 degrees on the inside. It might be 2000 degrees, 2100, 2200. It might only ever get up to 1650, 1700. Until you know exactly what your forge is doing to the steel, knowing what the different phases between magnetic and non-magnetic and how long you need to go into quench is just guessing games. So you have to do the research, you have to do the science, and you have to take the time to do it. I've done that. I've snapped a ton of blades to be able to figure out what I wanted, and I've done a lot of edge retention because, again, I use a forge to do a lot of my stuff. So let's see here. Triple A's has always worked for me. Gives a super black finish, and hell yeah, a nail before you heat. Yes, absolutely. And I like Triple A. I've got my peanut oil. I've got Triple A, and I've got Parks 50. I have all of the different quenching oils. The reason why I still use peanut oil is I use it just for particular 5160s that I use in my shop. That's peanut oil. Everything else, like my 80 CRV2, my 15N20, my 52100, the 10 series and stuff like that, all of that gets AAA or Parks 50. And again, the reason why I use the peanut oil at 120 degrees on that particular 5160 is because I've done a lot of snap tests and a lot of testing, and I've figured out exactly what hardness I can get to with particular processes. So I just repeat the thing that works, not the thing that is a guessing game. And then, yes, getting a high temperature probe for your forge is absolutely a game changer. So a thermocouple. So if you got a thermocouple, if you've got different things like that, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Jason Valet, he actually has a good setup that he has for his forge, and that bad boy works really, really well. But yeah, I've used that on mine, and it works really, really well as well. Plus, I use this laser thermometer right here for testing the temperature of my oil versus a regular little thermometer that sits inside of it. And I'm about to change my quenching process. Not really change the process, but I'm going to do a couple of cool things, and I'll have some videos come out for that using a turkey fryer like burner and everything to be able to heat the oil up easy and do all that stuff. It's going to be fun. And y'all are going to get to see me quench in diesel. So I've got a couple of practice blades and everything that I'm going to be quenching in that just to try it out, because one of my friends does that and he absolutely loves it. And that is his thing and the only thing that he quenches in. So y'all are going to get to see that. That'll be sketchy and fun. I'm going to probably do that outside of my entire wooden shop. This is probably not the best space to be, quenching in diesel an entire wood shop. No. What's your experience with canola oil? I don't use it. I use peanut oil. I don't like the smell of canola oil after it quenches. I'm okay with the smell of peanut oil. And I would not switch to canola oil if I already used peanut oil. I prefer peanut oil. It's just, again, the smell doesn't bother me. Absolutely never quench in motor oil. If you're watching a YouTube video, okay, and they go and they quench into an oil in a little carton or container, and that stuff is sludge black and it bubbles a lot and bubbles over and splashes everywhere, that is motor oil that they're quenching in. Do not follow that process. Do not quench in motor oil. There's a ton of impurities. Do not do that. Okay, if you're going to do it in an oil that's not Parks 50 or AAA, use like a peanut oil. Also, Parks 50 and AAA are not expensive oils. Those are cheap. If you look at the price of those versus the amount of peanut oil that you have to buy, like gallon jugs and stuff like that, it's not that expensive. Once you sell one knife, you pay for your jugs of quenching oil super fast. So it's worth it just to go ahead and get some Parks 50 and get some AAA and just have those in your shop. If you could just skip past the whole canola oil and peanut oil and all that stuff and just go straight to the actual oils that really, really work, just skip straight to it. Get you some Parks 50, get like a gallon of Parks 50, like a gallon of AAA. That's all you really need to be quenching camp knives and stuff like that, and call it done. I put my oils in ammo cans. I got a big ammo can, smaller ammo can, plus I have my little post driver that I do some of my stuff like swords like this right here in, and it's real easy. But yeah, just get the real oils and call it done. And a lot of people wonder why I use reclaimed steel versus steel that I could purchase. I just like using the particular reclaimed steel that I have. I use Willys Jeep leaf springs. I use a particular model of Ford leaf springs, and I get those very easily from people that give them to me. So I use those, but I also use your 52-100, 80 CRV2, 10 series steel, 15N20, 26C3. I use a lot of those steels that are purchased from manufacturers as well, and different knife companies and things like that. So it's perfectly fine to go ahead and use that steel. If I was making knives as a beginner, the first steel that I would purchase is 1080 or 1084, and I would make like my first 50 knives out of just that. That's going to make your life so easy. You'll learn your quench process. You'll learn all your thermocycling process. You'll learn your forging, how it works with that particular steel. You'll learn a lot off that one steel, and then branch out from that. Do not start with 1095. Don't start with something like 52-100. Don't start with something that's complicated, has a complicated heat treat process that really does its best job in a heat treat oven. Don't use those steels. Use something like 1080, 1084. Call it done. Use that first 50 knives. Learn how to do stock removal. Learn how to forge. If you can do both of those, you'll be a good knife maker. You don't have to know how to forge, but you do have to know how to do stock removal. So if you want to be a knife maker and get into it, get really good at your stock removal, get really good at your heat treat process and your handle profiling and ergonomics, and then branch into forging, do that process. But I'll tell you right now, the difference between an awesome knife and a not so awesome knife is how good you are at your stock removal game. You know, you can forge a beautiful knife, but if you do not go through and clean everything up and make it to where handle fits up great and where all the stuff fit up where it needs to fit up, and that your edge is really good and that your geometry is really good, it's not going to be a very good knife. You know, you need to know how to do stock removal to make sure your ergonomics on your handle are really perfect and really clean and symmetrical. That process is a must in the knife making community, is being able to be really good on your belt grinder or belt sander or with files and things like that if you have to do that. But your stock removal game, that's a must. Forging saves you money because you get to forge the steel into the profile you need. You're not sacrificing steel that's just falling to the floor. Okay, there's a big difference. Forging saves you money because the steel stays in the knife. Stock removal, you tend to cut off the excess steel, it falls on the floor and gets swept up and thrown away. And little bitty triangles and little bitty slitters. So think about that. And then what we got here, 1084 is my jam too. It absolutely is the best, isn't it? 1084, if you're just working on knives and doing stuff like that, you can make chef's knives, you can make camp knives, you can make choppers, you can make pretty much everything. You can make swords, you can make whatever you want out of 1084. 1084 is amazing still. I use an induction cooking top under a large 4-inch deep rectangular. Yeah, to heat your oil, and that's great. Like I helped Matt Rich actually build one of those. I welded the frame up for him and all that stuff whenever he was here before we went to Blade Show, Texas. You know, we built a little contraption that has a little stovetop little thing, little single burner, electric cooktop, and that's what we used that's what, we made to be able to heat up his oil and everything like that. So yeah, you can do a lot of cool stuff like that. Yeah, just get crafty, make the thing that you want to make and do your thing. And don't be afraid to just do the process and just try it out. Pretty much the whole reason behind this channel starting was I decided that I was going to try a thing, and I just made my first knife and went on from there. If I wouldn't have just decided to go ahead and try it and then try it again and 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 again until I got to the point to where I'm at right now, I wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be talking. But I'm using 01 tool steel for all my knives. Never used anything but metal files so far. So 01 tool steel is absolutely awesome. That's a great steel. And you can get, the cool thing about tool steel is quenching it and doing all that stuff. I've used 01 and I've done like water edge quench and then oil. I've done a lot of different things. So 01's a good steel. And there's a lot of people that use 01. There's a lot of people that use like D2, W steels and all that stuff. And it's whatever is easier for you to get. The cool thing about 1084 is it's cheap. It's not expensive steel. You can get it in 4-foot bars and you can get it pretty much from a lot of different vendors. 01 tool steel, not so much. It tends to be, from what I've seen, a little bit more pricey than some other steels that you can use. But again, if you're going to use 01, just use 01. Make like your first 50 knives out of that steel and call it done. Now, a lot of people might be thinking, 50 knives? I've got to make 50 knives before I switch to something else? 50 knives is nothing. In the knife making community, a lot of people who've been doing this for a while, I've made hundreds of knives. Hundreds and hundreds of them. And my first 50, I learned a lot. I learned the things that I like about the way my aesthetics are with knives and things that I needed to change within my aesthetic of knives. So your first 50 knives, man, you'll put more finger choils in knives than you could ever imagine. You will put a finger choil. See what we can do here. Finger choil, finger choil, finger choil, finger choil. There's technically a finger choil in that knife. Finger choil, finger choil, finger choil, finger choil, finger choil, finger choil. You will put those in so many knives, or you will decide that you like clip points, and everything will be a clip point. It'll be one of those things where you'll end up deciding what is necessary on a knife that you're designing and what is not necessary. You'll be able to think through. Most of the knives that you start off with will be knives that you've purchased in the past. So, like, if you're super into Kershaw, or you're super into different particular knives, Gerbers and stuff like that, you'll realize that the knives that you start making are very similar to those knives that you're used to carrying. So whether you like sheep's foot knives, or whether you like clip points, or whether you like drop points, because that's what you're used to carrying, a lot of your knives that you first start off with, dude, it is ridiculous. You'll make a lot of that same knife. And then by about your 50th knife, you will have taken yourself out of that, and you'll realize what a camp knife should feel like, what a chef's knife should feel like, better handle ergonomics, and things like that. You'll really think through what the knife is built for and what you're going to end up doing. But you'll repeat a lot of that same stuff for those first knives. You'll be like, a Coke bottle handle? This is amazing. Then you'll make like 17 different styles of Coke bottle handles on knives. You'll be putting Coke bottle handles on everything. It could be a knife this big. It could be a knife this big. It could be a knife this big, this big, this big. That bad boy has a Coke bottle handle on it and a finger choil. You'll see a lot of that. It's the progression of knife making. Dude, the finger choil. Yes. And it really is. It is the way that you do a lot of your stuff. And I keep a lot of these up here because, those were like my first profiles and trying to branch out. I've made several of these knives. This knife right here, my Rivolette, I've made a ton of those. That is like the favorite knife for some reason out of everything that I've made. It's the one that has like 1 million views on YouTube here. The heirloom knife, and it's one of those things where you go through and you realize what makes a good knife as people use it, as you use them, and you kind of branch away from the knives that you get at like Academy, Walmart, things like that, where typically people go and they pick up knives. Again, like I said, you base a lot of your designs on knives that you've used in the past whenever you first start making knives. And boom, there you go. There are certain people that they hammer out clip point knives. That is their thing. They make buoys. Buoys is their jam. Me, I like everything. I like clip points. I like drop points. I like a lot of different grinds and things like that. The one thing that I don't do much of is Scandi grinds. I don't do Scandi grinds on like anything, because it always drives me nuts whenever I see like a knife that's like this tall, like a drop point knife, and the edge stops down, like the bevels are down here, then you have like 1 inch of flats. It's ridiculous. What's your biggest knife that I've made? I mean, I've made swords, so I would say that. If you're going to say biggest knife, that's technically a knife and not a sword, that's my biggest, if you want to call it a knife and not a sword. That's the biggest one. I mean, you got to think, this right here, it's got the big. So the blade on that is 14 inches long, and it is 2 3/4 of an inch at its widest point. So 2 3/4 inches right here, and 14 inches long. That is probably the biggest knife that I've made, and it is massive. It is huge, and I love it. This is the one that's the video that's going to be coming out next. Through tang, copper medallions, awesome spalted pecan. But yes, that right there is definitely my biggest knife. I've made, like I said, I've made swords and I've made everything like that. One of the things that I want to make is a big battle axe. That'll end up happening. But so, well, the Darth Maul dagger is bigger because it has 2 blades, Nisha. So, well, I guess you're right though, because the big side on the Darth Maul dagger is longer than this. The blade itself, the bigger blade out of the 2, I think is 18 inches, and then it's got a 12-inch blade on the other side. So 18 inches for the main blade, and then it's got a handle about this big in the center, and it's got another blade that comes off this side that is about 12 inches. I think that's about how big that is. So, yeah, so the one side of that is about this big, but it's a dagger, so it comes up like this. And yeah, it's got a blade about this long on one side, and then coming off the other side, it's got another 12-inch blade coming off that other side. So, yeah, that one, if you were going to call that a knife and not a dagger sword thing with the handle in the center, yeah, that would be probably my biggest one. Yeah, and I love doing big knives. I make small knives and I do stuff like that, but when I first started, a lot of them were smaller because I did a lot of stock removal and I wanted to get as many knives out of steel as possible. So a lot of my knives were smaller, but me personally, I like my knives to be slightly larger. I like to have a full-size handle that I can actually do things with. Personally, that's just more of my jam. Okay, no, maybe here. Bring it real quick. Hold on, 1 second. So, my wife brought them. Y'all seen this one? This is one of the insanity builds. She didn't bring the Darth Maul dagger though. It's up on the top. But this one right here, this is a 2-handed scythe style. Like, if y'all have never seen the insanity build process that we did, I made those handles. I actually glued all these pieces individually to that liner. It's ridiculous. But that right there, 2-handed. I took about that much of that blade right there straight into my elbow right here. Straight into it. Whenever I was going through and I was hand sanding this, I had it in the vise. And typically I turn these around to the wall. I didn't do that on this one. I was cleaning and it was like this. And I turned and I just went think, and it just stuck the whole entire tip into that elbow. And it swelled up and bled like a son of a gun. But yeah, that was not fun. This one took blood. The Darth Maul dagger cut me along here. I still have the shirt that it sliced through, and that cut me on my stomach. And that wasn't fun. And here is the Darth Maul dagger. My wife is so handy and helpful. That. If y'all never seen this, this is the most beautiful knife I've ever made. This right here is absolutely the most gorgeous thing that I've done. The handle, all hand filed. That right there. That is the most beautiful thing that I've ever made. And I'll tell you, this is sketchy. This is the most dangerous knife because if you take and you slice through something with this side, that is a whole cutting edge. that's right by your forearm. And that right there, it's fun, but the transition. Oh, and by the way, so this is the transition that you're going to see on the samurai sword. So that's the finish that you'll see on this when it's all said and done. That's going to be really cool. But yes, that right there. You know, I was the one person that was like, oh, we're going to do a dagger challenge? Huh. 4 bevels? That's going to suck. I made 8. 8 bevels. But I had to center up because I had to make sure this line centered with that line. All the way down. But that right there, easily one of my favorites that I've ever done. And it was something that I had to really think about symmetry-wise to get everything, my batarang looking handle area, all nice and even. But that right there, that's my favorite. And I'll never sell this. This will end up being on the wall behind me whenever I start doing the podcast me at the shop, which of course y'all will be able to join that. And whenever I start doing live streams in there. But I would say if we were going to do, technically, I guess that's technically the largest blade of it, or a largest knife. If we're going to consider this a knife, that right there, hog splitter. Look at that. Love the finish on this one. Look at that bad boy. How sick is that? Again, another one of my favorite builds that I've done. Big, two-handed. That bad boy right there, that'll split whatever you need to split. Let's see here. Darth Maul is beautiful. Thank you, Klaus. And thank you, David. The last knife was Tuscan blood. Yes, it was. I've got a few of mine that are like that. Oh, and still one of my favorite builds that I've done to this date. Which y'all don't really get to see much of, but y'all will here soon whenever I have it up on the wall. Okay. This is still one of my favorites. The Hellbat, little Louisville Slugger. That bad boy right there. That stays in the shop. That's the old shop self-defense right there. And they're not fake nails. Those are real nails that are actually sharp. Yes. So Purge movie props, but real. So whenever I made this, I was going to be going to a Halloween event, and I was going to be smashing pumpkins throughout the whole entire event. So where I work for an RV park, and not really an RV park. I work for an RV dealership, and we took all the RVs and we made them into a maze. So we backed them all up, moved them all around, and I was running around the whole entire maze. I had pumpkins set up everywhere, and I would run, and I would wait for a group of people. We gave them all flashlights and stuff like that, and I was wearing a white, crazy outfit, a mask, and a whole Halloween outfit that I made myself, and they would come around the corner, and I would just jump out of the trailers and just explode a pumpkin all over them. It was awesome. And I had people that were acting like they were badasses, absolutely just absolutely collapsing. It was awesome. And because, again, a lot of people think that you're walking around with this, that this is plastic and all that, and then when you explode a pumpkin like 4 feet away from them, they're like, nope, that's a real bat with spikes. We don't know who that is. I'm not okay with this. and they took off running the other direction, or they absolutely just collapsed right there on the ground. And they were thinking they were just going to go through a little rinky-dink maze that an RV dealership had, and they had to deal with me for the whole entire time. It was absolutely awesome. Right? Dude, it's so much fun. This is absolutely a blast. I love this bat. But yeah, it stays in the shop. And whenever I get my whole setup in there, all done up, I'm going to have a lot of these builds on the back wall behind me. It's going to be really, really cool. But that right there is probably one of my favorites that I have. It's the screensaver on my computers and everything. And I absolutely love it. It's beautiful. And I'm going to be making, so just so y'all know, there's another version of a samurai thing. Whenever we were going down the samurai challenge, black hole of different builds and things like that, they have an actual samurai bat. Like, it is a samurai is a weapon that they would have used back then, that is like a bat with like little spikes all the way around it and things like that. I am going to be making one of those. It's going to be a cool thing. I'm not going to be using a bat as the actual main piece. I'm going to be making the bat profile and all that stuff out of one of these wheelbarrow handles, and but I'm going to actually profile it and do all that stuff, and then I'm going to be putting all the spikes and doing all that. It's going to be awesome. There's going to be a lot of profiling that's going to happen with it, and it's going to be really cool when it's all said and done. But that is going to be a cool build that I'm going to be doing, and I cannot wait to do it. Like the zombie movies filming homeless people in the first. I mean, that would be scary. But yeah, I've got a lot of the stuff that I've done here. I do love this one. This is absolutely ridiculous, and the finish turned out real cool. The whole blood splatter that's built into the actual finish there. But that right there, absolutely awesome. Now, other than that, I am excited to be able to have the video come out showing the finishing of the bolo. Cut through some big water bottles and cut through some other stuff with it. So y'all will get to see that. My goal is, again, have that out on Tuesday. I've been just so focused on getting the Samurai Challenge done that has taken and putting everything else on the back burner. That and healing, trying to make sure that I'm not putting too much weight on the old ankle. And again, the one thing that's drawn the most blood is the Harbor Freight hatchet. That still has my blood on it. That would be the probably the scariest thing in the shop right now, because it has actually made me pass out from blood loss. So other than that, my goal is, again, get that video out on Tuesday, and then y'all will have the challenge, the YouTube Knife Makers Challenge videos coming out here soon as well. That's going to be this month. I think in about a couple of weeks you'll be able to see that, and you're going to get all the challenge videos from all the other YouTubers. And there are some in there that are absolutely crazy. One of the guys made a damn crazy, like, multi-point spiked spear thing that's absolutely nuts, and his video is hilarious. So y'all will really like that. But y'all have got a lot to look forward to, and just content, not just my channel, but a bunch of other channels as well. So hopefully y'all are looking forward to that. Guys, we are about an hour and 20 minutes into this live stream. The next live stream that we're going to do is going to be working on an actual knife. We're going to be doing that. And this live stream, I just wanted to kind of catch y'all up, talk, just hang out for a minute, because I haven't been able to really film anything that has been able to be put out for a while. And I wanted to just actually talk with y'all and do what we did in this. So I feel like we accomplished that. I need to get back to working on this Samurai Challenge. I'll try and get some handle work done today, if I can get that done. Get the scales attached. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But guys, that's the end of this live stream. Hopefully, y'all, stay safe out there. Y'all have great weeks. Everything's good. and hopefully I'll be able to see y'all on Tuesday. We'll see how it goes. Y'all have fun. Later, y'all. Neil, Jeff, David. I'll catch y'all later.